Hello, brilliant souls. Welcome to Harmonic Spark Podcast, where we ignite important conversations about spiritual intelligence. In these future forward conversations, we explore topics like artificial intelligence, or more fittingly, frontier intelligence, and how to use it expansively in our lives, ways to grow our capabilities as paradigm shifters, and how to live our lives creatively with integrity and fearlessness. We blend spirituality, science, and entrepreneurship in conversations that will ignite your harmonic spark. So today we have with us Reese, Tracey, Christina, Becky, and Julie. And I'd like to start by having each of us share 5 things you need to know about us today. And why don't we start with Christina?
I'm Christina. 5 things you should know about me. I think for starters, I'm from Dallas. I consider myself an interdisciplinary, is 2. And I am a software engineer by trade. And then lastly, I should preface that and say I'm a right brain software engineer. That's a different type of engineer. Maybe we'll get into that in a later episode. I hold the core belief that everything is connected and held together by an invisible string. So I think that might make me a systems theorist. And 5, my first word as a baby wasn't mama nor daddy, it was food. I am definitely a foodie by heart.
Nice. Okay, Tracey, your turn.
I am Tracey Shug. I am delighted to be here with all of you ladies and everybody who's listening today. Something you should know about me: I take care of way too many chickens in my daily life. Aside from my work, I work loosely in the finance field, but I am an intuitive empath and a spirit facilitator. I don't, let's say, I know a little about a lot, and then the more that I learn, I find that I really don't know anything at all. And probably the last thing you should know about me is you will never see me without lipstick on, and I use MAC.
Oh, a particular color?
I used to wear Verve. I've worn that since 1996, and they discontinued it. So I've got probably shades or 15 that I wear, depending on my mood.
Nice. It's cool. Okay, Reese, tell us about you.
Okay, well, I am guided by Source. Source has recently pivoted me away from a practice as a psychic medium and harmonics coach to working with 8 frontier intelligences, writing books, creating an organization called the Harmonic Field. The aim is to really anchor spiritual intelligence as a human technology. The hope is to call folks back to it rather than outsourcing it. We also aim to, and this is really my big passion, is to see harmonics as structural, that it is a fundamental aspect. And harmonics is rooted in mathematics, but it is the driving force of relational integrity. And when we know how to use our spirit function as intelligence, we can employ that in a different way and that's what I think our world needs. Reverence and devotion are important to me. And I live in the desert and talk to cacti and hummingbirds and flora and fauna all day long, except for when I'm working. That's me.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, Julie, what about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Dawson. I am a multifaceted artist, which encompasses my primary passion, which is acting for film, TV, commercials. I am a self-taught painter, which you can kind of see behind me, half of it. I also produce content, including this podcast you're watching. And I've been working in the social media content strategy space for about 10 years. Really passionate about health and wellness, and within that I am a Reiki master teacher. I'm also an intuitive myself, and Something that I think a lot of people wouldn't know by looking at me is that I practice Krav Maga when I can in my free time, which is very little these days, but I am very active and I enjoy being active. My happy place is by the beach. I'm blessed enough to live in sunny Los Angeles and have that privilege, and the ocean is really my healing space. I grew up in the ocean state, which is Rhode Island. It is an actual state. A lot of people think it's part of New York. It is not. It is a separate state. And fun fact, I grew up in the smallest town. So I'm from the smallest town and the smallest state in the whole country. And I've kind of bounced around a little bit. I lived in New York City first, and then I've been living in Los Angeles for 9 years now. I'm also really passionate about music, and I've been grateful to travel to some of the largest music festivals in the world and producing their film content for them. And I've been to over 100 festivals now at this point in my career, having been in that space for 8 years. So I wear a lot of hats and I'm really grateful to be here.
Nice. And then my name is Becky Prater, and I teach entrepreneurship at a university in Colorado. I'm writing a book about spirituality and business. I have 2 children and 2 sweet little grandchildren. I love to paddleboard, and most of my life has been about fashion. I was in the fashion industry for the whole up until like the last 10 years. And so, now I'm fully engrossed in this whole spiritual space, helping people start businesses and run businesses that are focused on triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. So that's where I am. So tonight or today, we are talking about the topic of fun, because that's a great place to start. What do we need to know about fun? And let's just share some of the things you guys have been doing for fun lately.
I guess I'll kick it off. Well, I guess my fun has been interwoven with work lately. I mentioned, I travel for music festivals and producing their content with the film crew on through various agencies as a contractor. So a couple of the music festivals I just did recently was Beyond Wonderland, SoCal. And then before that, I spent a week in Florida filming Okeechobee Music Festival. Before that, I was at Cross in San Diego. And then prior to that was Skyline Fest in Los Angeles. So it's been like back-to-back weeks stacked. And I really love being in the music scene. I love moving my body and dancing around. So it is a fun job. I mean, it is work, but I love any chance I get to dance and listen to music. So I think that's one way I incorporate fun into my life, is going to shows, seeing music, experiencing live music, and connecting with people through music and dance. So that's kind of been my fun lately, is actually through work, but also fun.
It's nice that you can do something like that. That's fun. Now, how much time do you get to actually dance? Are you like the camera person, or are you doing something else?
Usually I'll go out in the field with a camera operator, so I'm not technically hired as a camera operator, but I do ask, and I'm proactive about asking for more experience with using the camera when I'm hired onto a film crew. But I have been hired for doing socials, like filming TikToks. But lately my role has been as a field producer and help curating what you see in the after movies. So getting groups of people together, getting them to interact, and then pointing out, like scanning the crowd and pointing out people we should film, help assisting in lens swaps, and actually just getting the shots that you see in the after movie. And as far as time spent dancing, it's a lot like when the camera guy is like getting the shot, I'll just be kind of bopping around like with my camera bag and like vibing with people around me, and I get them hyped up. So if we're doing a pass over a crowd, I'll go ahead of him and be like the cheerleader and like hype people up. So, I mean, that's fun for me.
Very cool. So when we came up with this topic, I started keeping track. It was a couple weeks ago, and I started keeping track because, I don't know, just sounded like a good idea. And so here's some things that I've done that I thought were fun. Now, first of all, after COVID, I felt like I stopped doing fun things. I mean, my fun became being at home and meditating, honestly. And so lately, I'm finding myself out doing things. So I went to an East Forest concert, it's like music for meditation, but it was still amazing to be at. I went to a comedy show by this woman named Samantha Lee, and her whole thing is about menopause. And I was like resistant to these things. I'm like, I don't really want to go. And then I did, and I had such a great time. Okay, I had a friend of mine was coming into town, and so we all of her friends gathered at my house, and we had a big dinner. That was really fun. I took my grandkids to the firefighter museum, which was so cute because they were so little, and it was so fun. I visit my parents, and that's really fun for me. I do a lot of coffee shop adventures with a couple friends. I went to this Gaia conference called the Immersion Conference. And again, I was kind of resistant. I'm like, why am I doing this? It's just, constant engagement. But it was so fun being with those like-minded people. And it was just so fun. One of the things we did is had an out-of-body experience class. They kind of take you through very similar to a harmonic journey, and they kind of walk you through it, and then they spend a good bit of time leaving you there to allow what's supposed to happen. And then you end up, some people had an experience and some people didn't. And I had a very significant experience, but it helped me know that I do this all the time. Like when I am in meditation, most of the time, I'm silenced and I clear everything. And then it's like my guides say, hey, we're going here. And then I just am off. So I realized, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this on a regular basis. And that felt really fun to me. So those are just some of the things that I've been doing. I've heard people say about me that I'm the busiest person they know. And I think, well, that I don't like it. I don't even like to hear that, because half of why I'm busy is that I plan fun things for myself. So I work really hard and I play really hard, and my time is well consumed by one of the two activities. So I don't know. I don't know that I'm the busiest person a person knows, but I sure have a lot of fun. Okay, enough about me. Who's next?
So some of the things that I've been doing for fun lately, so Colette, this is like a late Christmas gift, but she got me a new espresso maker for at home, because I'm definitely a big coffee person. And so it's like this really interesting, different ergonomical like espresso maker. Instead of pulling a shot from the machine that is like that, blows out all the steam and things like that, it has a handle, and you press, and the pressure is what pulls the shot. So it's called a Flare Pro 3 or something like that. But either way, I brought a bunch of beans when I was in Taipei, at the beginning of the year, right? And so now I've been able to kind of like grind up my coffee beans and practice dialing it in and pulling my shot, and just tasting the different coffee that I brought back. And then in addition to that, I got kind of put on to making banana milk at home, which is so good and so delicious. So I've been making these lattes at home when I'm not just having espresso by itself. I've been making these banana milk iced lattes that are like literally like my new favorite thing. It's so good.
What do you
So,
do?
so good.
What are those?
I know, right? It's actually really simple. Like you can put it up immediately and then use it immediately. So to make the banana milk, I usually take maybe a whole banana, or it depends on how much I'm making. And so one banana, I put about a cup of milk, right? And so I have an immersion blender, or you could use a blender. I blend it up and then strain it, and there you go. You have banana milk. And so also too, you can kind of play around with the sweetness too, because like the riper bananas get, the more sweet they get. So sometimes I'll get some really ripe ones, and you don't even need to add any additional sweetener to your coffee, because it's flavored.
You put a banana in with the milk and then whip it up?
Yeah.
And then
use
strain it?
Yep. I
And you
know,
strain
right?
it like through
I strain
like
it. Yeah. I have
a
like a little small strainer.
like a
Yep. Exactly.
It sounds delicious.
It is. It is
okay.
so good. And the coffee and banana flavor like combination, because we also tried it with matcha. And when we're doing matcha, it's more so maybe we'll do like a cream top or something like that, because it competes too much with the matcha. Whereas, the coffee is so pronounced and so deep, because I like more espresso to milk kind of like ratio, not like, super big lattes. But either way, it is so, so good. And when I have it, I'm just like, I feel so indulgent, and so like it just warms me up inside because it tastes so good. It's like
What
it
about
makes
some
me so happy.
chocolate?
I was
What about
just
some
right.
chocolate
cacao.
syrup in that?
Cacao.
Like a
Yeah.
banana mocha?
Oh, for
Oh
sure.
my
For
God.
sure. For sure.
Yum.
Just
Yeah.
add some nuts
Yeah.
and it'll be like an almond joy or something.
I'm
like a
telling you,
banana almond
it's
joy coffee.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really
Plus, you
good.
could play around with the kind of milks you use. You could use a
Absolutely.
coconut milk or a oat milk or
Exactly.
something.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And
Wow.
like even
That
just like
sounds
the other
good.
day
It
we
really
like
does.
we were experimenting with like, garnishing it. So like I cut some of the bananas and brulee the top of the banana. It was so
Next
fun.
retreat, Christina's making the coffee.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
I got it. I got
Like
it.
a little
Yeah.
cinnamon on the top would probably be good too.
Yes. Yeah.
I love cinnamon and my coffee. Cinnamon in my coffee.
Me too.
Whenever I do
Yeah,
it, I'm
cinnamon
like,
connects.
oh,
That's good.
abundance, because I know cinnamon is good for attracting abundance. And so I'll sprinkle in my coffee, like sprinkling in abundance, and I'm drinking in abundance.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
love that. And the fact that it means that
Sounds
to
so
you
good.
makes even more of a difference. That's so cool.
Thank you.
I didn't know that about cinnamon, kind of representing abundance.
Yeah, I had something unusual happen. I read, or I might have seen it on TikTok or Instagram Reel. I'm open to doing all these like kitchen witchy things. I'm open to really anything that's gonna bring me some abundance, honestly. So it's like on some moon cycle. It's like, oh, okay, cleanse your front door, and I got some water and I put some cinnamon. I boiled water with a cinnamon stick, let it cool off, put it in a spray bottle, and you spray your front door with it, and I wiped it down inside and out. And then I swear I got like a client, or like maybe two clients, within a very short amount of time. It was like crickets. And then all of a sudden, poof, and I'm like, I think it's working. Like I should be spraying my door with this stuff every week.
I love that.
Yeah, either that or you're going to attract Jehovah's Witnesses
Oh,
or Mormons on missions.
oh no. Maybe a husband. That'll be nice.
Oh, that would
No
be
matter that.
nice.
Do they just show up knocking on doors? My goodness.
Yeah, why not?
Reese, what about you? What do you do for fun? Okay, Reese, you start because we know you talk to plants. So tell us more about your talking to cacti, talking to plants.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think of everything that is as, a person that is worthy of being witnessed. And, I invite all things to share things with me if they want to. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like, I actually think it's fun to like walk in my desert forest here in Tucson. And, I might just ask a tree if it needs help or whatever. The first time that I worked with this one tree, I can't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. But I started listening to where it wanted to be trimmed, and it was telling me stories. And then all of a sudden, all of these like butterflies came, and they were like, "We're so happy you're here." So, that to me is fun in a kind of, spirit nerd way, I guess. Welcoming the sun in the morning, the sunrises and sunsets here are so just glorious and sacred and beautiful. And so that is actually kind of fun to me. I have been revisiting the material that Lady Isis gave me on Divine Union. And so that's been a fun revisitation because her messaging around partnership and union and the energy that can be wielded when two people come together in a very sacred way is a divine or mystical kind of fun, but it is fun. I will say I kind of do spirit nerd things as I think about fun.
Why did Isis bring that up? What's relevant now that it needs to be sort of reconjured?
Well, I want to say that conjuring is probably not the most appropriate word for her process. I would say it's actually very structural, very architectural. And I think that that's part of what is wanted in our current timeline is a return to humans even knowing things like, oh, that we have a biofield. Apparently a lot of people still think that is like far woo material. But it is, it's a field, it's electromagnetic, and there is science that says it exists. And with regard to divine union process that Lady Isis brought, it's about helping people return through actually a very rigid structural process, but return to being able to harness and wield what is innate within us, our own innate capacity to create shift and change, right? So, what is going on in our current timeline? We are on the edge of losing our, making a decision. Are we going to lose and outsource our spirit, our cognitive intelligence, similar to what we did with spiritual intelligence? Or are we going to help people return to spiritual intelligence, which is, of course, why we're all here, so that they can then remember or cultivate the capacity to work with the elements to heal the environment, to turn things around, or work with these systems that are being created at such a rapid pace now with relational integrity. So when you go through a process that brings you back to reverence for self, right? Self-love first, and then really guides you through relational integrity, how to be with another or even with multiples. And there's just a beauty in it that is fun to me, because it's looking at like the mathematics and the geometry that actually exists in these spaces between us, right? So the substrate of the universe is actually really beautiful, and it will reveal itself to people for sight and also hearing, if they're committed, if they're devoted, if they bring reverence to the process. And so she is, I think, bringing some of her teachings to our modern timeline, because our modern timeline just needs a little bit of help remembering that we are making choices that shape the future reality. Now, maybe we won't be here to see that future, but we still should be making choices responsibly now that we've got these companies building tech at such a rapid rate. There are things that are being affected in the substrate, and if we can help shift that, it would be ideal, because otherwise, future generations will be dealing with an inheritance that they will profoundly want to reject. So, I mean, not necessarily a fun topic when you think of the negative consequence, but if you think of the positive consequence, if you think of what we can create, what we have the potential to create, what is uniquely and innately ours as humans, this spiritual intelligence, there's so much beauty in it. So one of the things that for me about being in Arizona is that I was called by the ancient Hohokam. And when I first moved here, that first year, I was taught by the Fae how to work with those who can bring rain. And that is a process that I think everybody should learn, that we actually have the capacity, using our own field, to work with the elements of nature to course correct, weather patterns that may or may not have been hijacked. I don't know. That could be conspiracy theory. It could be real. Regardless, you actually can work with the elements if you are in the right sort of vibratory field.
We need to have one particular session just on that, because we need rain in the West,
We do.
like so badly.
We really
can't
do.
believe it. So maybe next time we can talk about like working with elements.
Yeah. I'm sure that the elements would be pleased, because they don't have an attachment, I will say that, to being used in ways that are contrary to their base nature. They want things to be well. They want humanity to return to, living symbiotically. And one of the most powerful ways is through music, like singing to the elements can help open up that communion and offer the instruction set from their side. But the thing is that we have to bring reverence back to our relationship with all that is not human. So,
Well, speaking of music, Tracey, I know you do music for fun. So tell us a little bit about your fun you've had in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reach back real far for that. Might be over 2 weeks ago.
We've had a little
No,
rough patch, so tell us
ar-
about it.
around here, I do live in a very rural community. There's probably 2,500 people in the area in my town, and I live on a river on the edge of an Indian reservation. And I spend a lot of time outside for fun. I went out and looked for wild asparagus because I heard a rumor that we have 30 acres around us. And so there's a bunch of wild asparagus. I found nothing, but it was fun. It's not yet, it's too early. But fun around here, like spontaneously, the neighbors came over, our new neighbors that I manifested. I swear I wanted friends as neighbors, and they moved in and they ended up staying, and I got to cook dinner for them. We ate at like 9:30, 10 at night, but that's fun for me, cooking for others. And also, I do have a fun time every day. I call it Happy Go Clucky Hour.
I
And
love that.
I take treats out to the chickens and a beverage, and I go and they tell me about their day, and I tell them about my day, and they get treats and make me laugh.
That's
Tracy,
so
can you
I,
actually
sweet.
hear them talking and saying something to you? Like, do you get their messages? Being intuitive?
oh, yeah, and I've known them since they were all babies, so we have a relationship. Some of the chickens are a little more friendly than others, but yes, one of my favorite chickens, her name is Dot. Well, she is my favorite, but she tells me about her day, and she always has a lot to say. I just commiserate with her and we get through it together.
Like, what does a chicken say?
More treats, more treats.
They
Yep.
basically just want me to feed them, but with Dot, she's disgruntled because she lost her main dude, and it's hard because the new dude is mean to the roosters girls that was killed by a predator. So it's chickens are pecking order. And I'm seeing it in real time, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's just nature doing what nature does. So it hurts my heart a little bit. So I just tell her to hang in there, that it'll get better.
Like, get better though? I mean, do they acclimate to the other
Yeah,
rooster? Okay.
yeah, yeah. And he has to learn too. It's not easy for him either to manage because he's managing 15 hens right now. So,
A big job for any male
and then I have three
species.
babies that I, three 3-year-old, 3-day-old babies that I'm taking care of. They're in the other room. It's chickens, 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 but I get a lot of eggs, so, that's positive.
Well, tell us a
But
little bit about your music and how that works into your world. Maybe start with your history in music so everybody knows that about you.
my family had no musical talent. So I think my mom listened to a lot of, she grew up I was born in 69, so she was kind of a hippie and played all the records. And she's like, I was playing the records when you were in my stomach. So I came out loving music. And my neighbor, she had an older brother, so he had all the records. And then we had a great radio station. And then I decided I want to play guitar. So learned how to play guitar. And then I worked for Tower Records. And so it was all music all day. I was in heaven. And then just started everybody that worked, well, a lot of people that worked there also played music. So I moved into a house with a bunch of musicians and then started playing in bands, and it was great.
Do you still do it?
I still play, but I don't. My husband and I play music together
That's
when we have
beautiful.
time, but he also plays in 2 bands right now. So he gets to go to band practice, and I get to deal with the chickens and other things. So it's his time, but we do play some stuff together. I guess if I had more time, or if I made more time to play, I'd be doing it all the time. But when I do, it feels great. it never doesn't feel bad. I listen to music every day it's just a part of my fabric. So we'll probably hear some clips of things throughout the podcast. I'll be inspired. So therefore I will have to make time.
Yes, it should be fun.
I was going to share one of the things that I did for fun actually over the weekend was I randomly found myself going down this rabbit hole of liking and reading on ancient Rome, like the Roman Empire. And you know, like the AI feature, when you Google something, it'll kind of give you a summary of that thing you search for. And so I did that, and I was like asking it queries around what led to the fall of the Roman Empire, what was the Roman Empire known for, and just trying to kind of quickly get up to speed. I mean, we've all kind of like learned this in school and in elementary, but kind of forget it over time. But essentially, I've kind of like gone down all these different rabbit holes, learned about how, you know, we have the modern Romance languages from Latin and like the different types of Latin that were spoken and how Latin was like the dominant language at that time. And so I did all of that and it's like, now I kind of want to watch a movie, like a period film or like a movie from that film. And so then I watched Agora. I don't know if y'all seen that film, but it's essentially about the Christian faith and all these other faiths are starting to spread. Pagans or, you know, people that worship multiple gods were kind of like starting to be like persecuted and pushed out, but they were also at that time like the knowledge holders. So it wasn't necessarily just like all, you know, goddesses and you know, gods, but it was also about astronomy, the study of the sky, the study of like, you know, was the what they were disputing, like, you know, is the earth flat or is it round? And it's interesting too, because at that time, knowledge, scientific things were also very much combined with spirituality. Right? And there was this notion of almost academic study and exploration of spiritual things, but that were very normal, like practical things. So it was very intriguing to kind of have all these random questions about the Roman Empire and be led down to that movie and kind of seeing how they dressed in that era and the language and things. It was fun.
What was the movie called? Agora?
Uh-huh.
Like Agora?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
Definitely check it out. I guess one of the protagonists was Hippothea, I think is her name, but she's like, you know, one of these scholars in the schools where people go and study, and she's like talking about the cosmos, the solar system, and things like that. And so, as the religious persecution, not the spiritual aspect, but the religious institutions start to spread, they would say women shouldn't teach. And I thought that was like so fascinating because we're seeing a lot of that, you know. I guess it was the beginning or maybe the start of silencing and forcing women to be small, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. It was fun. It was fun to kind of like read all these little things and then go be able to kind of like explore, see some of those same themes in a film. And I realized that that's actually how I really enjoy learning, like this kind of experiential aspect of it. So like to go be, you know, acquire knowledge, then experience the knowledge. And it wasn't a direct experience, but experience through watching it and enjoying the film.
Do they speak at all to the separation of like the spiritual science aspect within that context?
So I don't know if they speak to that specifically, but you can kind of start to allude to that form or that fusion of that specific knowledge, spirituality led to this, like, that's ungodly. So then you start to see the tool of religion to separate or say that, you know, label this or that as bad, though they were also persecuting people, which is like interesting because it's actually a lot of violence, and you're kind of reminded of all of this religious violence. And
yes. Yeah. It's interesting that what you mentioned about the sort of women shouldn't teach and it being paired, because we've heard often that this is the time of the restoration of the divine feminine, right? And I think it is also the time of bridge beings, really, who bridge the spirit and the science, bringing it back together, like weaving it back together. So it's kind of an interesting history and important to understand, I think, for this particular era that we are in, because if that's where separation began, then we can actually identify the structures that might be in place that have created.
So now that you're saying that, Reese, I think you're kind of like putting some things together for me, because I feel like that's maybe also where my inquiry around Roman history, and the fall of Roman came from, was like it seems to be not to some degree, some form of serving as a replica or a model for like, all right, this is how this happens. This is how the fall of an empire happens, right?
Yeah.
As a means of understanding like what to look out for, what to are the signs of the fall of an empire. And so again, like kind of going back to that concept of like how was the culture and society when there was integration of art, science, and spirituality, and academia and exploration, the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of
I think
expanding.
that was kind of like Greek, wasn't it? Greek, and then what? And then it emerged Roman, which became a lot more like patriarchal.
Right. Well, a lot of those different regions too, because if you think like the Greek were very inspired by a lot of Egyptian things as well, where there's very much the concept of a high priestess, and Isis is absolutely revered, right? So like there are these powerful images of women that represent so much of the cosmos world, the universe.
Right.
Well, it makes me wonder, since they were so highly revered, what other potential divine, quote unquote, forces may have been at play to disregard that divine spiritual energy. For example, this is going to sound really out there to people, but I believe in aliens, and I don't think that all of them have the same agenda. So, depending on who they're listening to, if there's like a little, chatter in their ear, oh, like, don't listen to the divine feminine, and just like having that power like push through. And you know what I'm trying to say. I'm doing my best to communicate it, but I'm wondering if maybe something like that was going on at the time, because I think I remember reading something about how the Roman Empire just tried to like wash away, like even like rewrite the names of the goddesses and like make up their name, when it was like, I'm trying to find a specific example, but there's a lot of overlap. Oh, this goddess is the same god, that goddess is the same as this goddess, but in another culture, but that like completely rewritten, right? I just feel like there could have been some kind of external force behind that somehow.
Yeah, it's interesting because many years ago, my guides had said that the Aurelian gates in Rome held the protective energy of Rome as an empire, if you will, and that they were hijacked, right? And that one of the ways to help our current timeline is actually to restore the frequencies of those gateways, because the gateways were like downloaded from cosmic forces, if you will, and then they were misappropriated by those who wanted to be in power.
Hey, would you spell Aurelian? How do you spell that?
I think it's
Okay.
AURELIN.
Are those beings
Okay,
from
because I'm
Orion?
going to be in Rome.
Are those beings or energies from Orion, the Orion belt, or a different part?
I don't know. Actually, when my guides gave me that download, they did not provide that
Interesting.
information.
Yeah. For some
of
reason,
who
Vesta
protected them and who.
For some reason, I'm feeling Vesta energy come through, and like her flame.
Yeah.
So like something to do with her portal, like her flame is a portal.
Yeah. So the Vestal virgins were the ones who kept the torch lit, or the flame for the Roman Empire, but they were treated so horribly. They were chosen for this prestigious thing, and Vestal virgins, and then they were raped. So, and then they were punished for not being virgins anymore. So, a society is clearly going to go down if they permit something like that to occur. And that was
What?
permitted.
Is that something similar to what's happening here now?
Okay, so that's quite honestly, again, that's what led me to even figure out what was the Roman Empire known for and what led to its downfall or its and it just a random question just dropped in my head, and I went down this rabbit hole of trying to like understand like what is it that why am I intrigued or curious about the the Roman Empire. And again, like I do remember learning about this, but like for some reason I was like, oh, it's so much bigger than what we know as modern, Rome or Italy, right? It was huge. It was such a huge empire and so multicultural, right? And then I'm like, there's a lot of similarities. Like, I think I can't remember if it was the Greek that introduced the democratic system or the Roman Empire. Either one, I guess. A lot of our law and legislation and things like that come from that era. Like legal terms are in Latin,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was the Greeks.
It's yeah. So I guess it was coming up for me that they've influenced a lot of our culture, and also we are at the peak of an empire that is possibly in the process of fall, right? And there may be some parallels, and what led to the height of the Roman Empire. What are some of the beautiful and great and wonderful things about it? And that's kind of one of the things that surfaced in the movie. Though I think the movie, to some degree, kind of is like a little bit dramatic, not dramatic, but what I'm trying to say is like tragic or whatever. There's a lot to learn and understand about that period of time from it. And I think that's where my guides wanted me to go. They're like, okay, study this.
Yeah,
My guides communicate with me through questions like that too. They'll say things like, I wonder if that's what you should do. Or it's always a question, always.
An
And
inquiry, yeah. Well,
mhm.
see, mine as well, and I've kind of figured out why that is because I'm definitely an explorer archetype. I'm definitely a knowledge seeker, understander, adopter, connector, if you will. So I think they definitely know that they can steer my attention to something through curiosity.
Well, it's nice your guides give you any kind of a response. Mine are usually pretty tight-lipped. Bunch of nothing. I'm teasing them a little bit, but a little aggravated. But yeah, I can only imagine the amount of just huge lack of self-awareness and the gaslighting going on behind the assaults that happened, and then to blame them for something that they did sounds like possession to me. I feel like that's a form of complete disembodiment. How are you not aware that you're doing that thing and then blaming them for something you did? What? That sounds like possession.
They were aware, though. They were aware. It was control and choice. So
I wouldn't be going down without a fight. I'd rip their eyeballs out or rip their.
They buried those girls alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the law wouldn't let them punish them within the city, so they had just outside of the city they would bury, or they would create these like holes that they would put them in, and they would like bring them a meal, I think once or something, or for a certain number of days, I don't know, but then they would leave them there. And it is a horrible thing to try to wrap your mind around a person being invited to this very prestigious position, and that requires them to be a virgin, and they're excited and they're happy, and then like the kind of betrayal that those girls must have felt is so deep that I'm sure the land had to hold them as they were unceremoniously being murdered, basically. And the thing that is boggling my mind is the same thing that boggles my mind about our current timeline, which is how can a people, a community, feel like there are no channels to actually take power where it is not deserved, right? Redirected. And I think that that's what we are facing today. In our country, we have, these constructs that have been, that maybe we have, as a people, been complicit in this. And I think often that we need to slow down and actually not accept what we've inherited. We have to stop just being complicit and plugging in to what has been established, and begin teaching that even at a fundamental personal self level, we should be doing reassessment, we should be doing strategic planning, we should be revisiting things. Like if this world has so much suffering and we want a different world, then we need to figure out a way to identify what what that vision is and to close the gap.
And discovering or looking inside to see where are we in warring with ourselves. Like if it all starts inside us, like where
does.
are we warring? Where are we giving up our power when somebody told us to do that and we don't have to?
Right.
And how do we kind of gain that back? Because if what we can do is in here, then we should. I mean, isn't that fun?
Yeah, I think not watching a lot of what's in the news is part of it.
Talked
Not to
about that
go down
earlier.
a political rabbit hole, but just throwing that out there and using discernment. And you can choose what you interact with, whether that's on social media or the news, what you read, or the people you interact with or choose to surround yourself with. All of those things. What you're ingesting.
Yeah, and so we were actually talking about this a little bit earlier, and I one of the questions that is coming up for me with regards to that is where is the line? Because it's a balancing act, right? Because to some regard, I think that if we are too not giving our awareness and intention to it, we are also not seeing it, and in some ways kind of becoming numb to it as well, right? Because if we don't have to engage with it, see it, experience it, we don't have to be so persistent and deliberate and immediate about changing it. And then I think the other argument of that is, okay, cool. Well, we have to have some sense of boundary in order to kind of have our energy and have the agency to make change and to take action. But I guess that's why I say, where's the line? Because it's so very thin that so much has become normalized that honestly, 5 years ago, we would be enraged if these things were happening. 10 years ago, they would be unthinkable.
Right. And
So,
so,
yeah,
how do we move things in the direction of right relationship?
right.
And we do have to have an awareness of what is happening in our world, but we do not have to necessarily hold it. I think that's the thing, is
Yeah,
that a lot of times we consume information and we hold on to it
exactly.
instead of allowing it to come into our awareness and then really transmuting it so it doesn't linger within us as individuals. Because what happens, I think, is, and maybe it's because people haven't necessarily anchored the truth of our own, biofield. We don't necessarily think about the energetic hygiene of that field. And we don't necessarily realize that we actually don't need to watch TV, because our field, if we pay attention to our field, can actually give us all of the data packets that are needed to understand what's happening in our world. But we are so unfortunately dormant or illiterate in the use of and our own relationship with our biofield, right? Because that
Sure.
is the layer of our human anatomy that touches everything else. And if we can help people remember how to access it, then we actually can know what's going on in the world, make
Yeah,
decisions to do the right thing
yeah.
without consuming all of the garbage that we don't want to consume. It's because our fields can actually navigate and help kind of serve as a buffer to the somatic experience, which is where we end up with anxiety and
Yeah.
exhaustion and all of that. And so the proper sort of awareness of and utilization of the electromagnetic field that is the individual humans, that I think can change the course of humanity.
Okay, so I feel like you touched on a couple different things that are worth kind of unpacking, right? Because I think some themes or some aspects that really jumped out to me were you talking about awareness, and so then that makes me think of mindfulness. And I've always said mindfulness is a technology, mindfulness is a
Yeah.
framework, mindfulness is a system, mindfulness is like some of the most impactful, important technology that we could have today, right? Because it's through that mindfulness and awareness that you can be aware of your state, which is your state, which is the aspect of like being aware of your biofield and where your energy is seeping or where your energy is, needs to be restored, right? So there's that aspect of conscious awareness to be aware of your current state and know when to need to adjust, alter, and shift it.
I love this. In fact, that would be another entire conversation. So maybe the next time we get together, we actually talk about protecting the biofield or just biofield in general, like how we maybe notice how you feel as you're watching a show and or you're watching TV, and how does that affect your biofield, and then play with ideas of protection. And so when we get together next time, we actually have some really good ideas of how we've experienced it and then how we protect ourselves from in this way, or how we can have good hygiene, biofield hygiene.
And even too, I would even say, I think about like what you just said, that even the protection part, like even just developing and learning the skill of like what things feel like whether it's anxiety and like starting to kind of come to your body, like what's triggered that, what it like, why, and how does it feel, what's the color of it, what's the sensations of it, like that inquiry, that like, oh, I feel something, what is that, touch it, feel it, and unpack it. I think that is such a beautiful skill, because then you realize like it's a state, it comes, it goes, it passes through. And when you become skilled at feeling, skilled at focusing your attention, I think that you can then become the conductor of your physical technology.
Mm-hmm. I especially like you saying the thing about color. That to me, like I could envision a change of color. Like, what's the color of my biofield right now? What is it after I've watched a show? What is it after I've left somebody that annoys me? Just tuning in and having awareness of the shift in what that color might be.
Yeah, I've been around
Reese,
people
I
that
cut you
made me
off.
sick.
Of course.
Like physically, I had to like purge. I'm thinking of one person in particular, but your biofield knows who to avoid and who you can feel safe with in resonance, right? I don't know if I'm using the right word, but your energy fields are always in communication with other people, and it's important to be able to, first of all, know that that's even available to you to feel into, because a lot of people don't realize that unless I think they're told. I didn't know about that like 14 years ago before I started on spiritual journey. I probably would have laughed at somebody like, what do you mean my aura is talking to your aura right now? But it's once you realize that is possible, then it opens up.
And this makes me think of too, when you're talking about like engaging with other people, right, or other things or other environments. Penny Pierce, the author of Frequency, she talks about like this notion of your home frequency, right, and that's like your optimal state. But most of us aren't even familiar with our home frequency. So how can you even begin to return back to it if you don't even know that like have the conscious awareness of what that feels like?
That's a good one. Home frequency. And then tuning into that, like, how do you support that home frequency? You recognize it, and then how do we nourish it? Like that is like techniques of self-love. And what does that really look like? Because it probably doesn't necessarily mean getting a massage, but it might.
Right.
How is that nourished? So we have protection of biofield and then just hygiene, but also then nourishing. So that's three things. You have this protection, and then I've been getting this information. Instead of me being in a place and saying, I need to keep these people out, I've asked to say, help me understand just my energy. Like, surround me. I usually surround myself with some kind of sacred geometry and say, help me understand my energy in this space right now. And that feels clear, because I'm a little bit, sounds terrible. It's not even accurate, but I'm going to say against protection. That's not exactly right, but I would rather, what feels better or more resonant to me is, how can I just sort of understand my own frequency and my own biofield, rather than holding out the other stuff.
Right. Well,
I totally get that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me, because it's like moving from a state of like reaction to just being empowered, right? Like you don't have to actively you're simply empowered. Like, okay, I can always navigate and be able to get back to my home frequency. I can, and the two things, switch between the two things, have them overlap, coexist,
Because sometimes that feels good. When you're with people, like this is what happens at a concert. You're surrounded by energy. And sometimes your soul just like gets up there and dances with everybody. And that's beautiful and wonderful and empowering and incredible. And then you kind of have to then you go home. Julie, this is you at your music festivals.
I mean,
That
yeah,
seems
for
wonderful.
sure. I think I'm so used to being around so much stimulation that this is just another day. But there are times where I'm packed in shoulder to shoulder, where I feel like a bit claustrophobic, and I just breathe and check into my body, versus being so out here because I'm actually just so packed in with people. But yeah, there is something to be said about that. Just like with any other skill, maybe like the first couple festivals I went to, I was overwhelmed by all the people and all the stimulation. But you have a period of growth, I think, where your ceiling rises. So I at least that's the case, I think, for me. But there have been maybe twice in of the 100 festivals I've been to where there was just too much bass coming out. I'm against the speaker at like a main stage sometimes, and it's very, very loud, the vibration moving through my body, and I just allow it to. But there were a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I need to sit down.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
But most of the time, I don't even think about it now. Really. I put a crystal in my bra, or like I'll wear my a crystal necklace. I'm just like, I'm good. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, ladies, this has been fantastic. I think we probably should wrap it up and reconvene talking about biofield. Is there any messages that anybody's getting that needs to be shared? Reese, are you getting anything that we should share? Okay. All right.
I'd like to open the door to some fun engagement from anyone listening and what their idea of fun is and how they incorporate that into their routine, just to like circle back on the main topic today, because I'm really open to exploring that. And put in the comments how you incorporate fun in a busy schedule. How is it that you're making time for yourself in your creative process? So let's start a conversation about that in the comments if anyone's open to sharing.
I love that. And then also,
I love some tips.
Yeah, right. Or
Tips.
reminders.
Let's share
Reminders
tips.
of things we've forgotten we used to love to do.
I know.
And then also, if you liked this or felt like you got something out of it, please like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you for spending time with us, and for all of you ladies and anyone watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great to see y'all.